Hello, everyone. Welcome to Coffee, Kegs, and Kriegsspiel. I don't have my camera on. There we go. We'll turn on the camera. It's a chilly morning today in central coastal California, but I do have my coffee going. And what you are looking at here are the pieces. Look at these pieces. Look at how beautiful these pieces are. These are the pieces for Blaze Trail's Franco-Prussian War game that we played yesterday. Absolutely exquisite in their appearance, their design. I mean, just look at that. You got the beautiful eagle, everything. I mean, this is clearly a labor of love. He even made the command tokens, the avatar tokens, or whatever you want to call them, the commander tokens, thicker than the rest, so they have a little bit more weight to them. And you can see them, and I mean, to spend that time and put that level of detail into the work is absolutely impressive. You have your little light infantry there going on in some of these battalions. It was a pleasure to play with these pieces. It was a privilege, really, and to just have this fun game. Here was my command during the game. I was this guy. I was the commander in chief of the 3rd Division. I had two 5th Brigades. Actually, one of them should be 4th. It could just be a typo error there, but not a big deal. But I had two brigades of infantry. I had some artillery, and this is the Franco-Prussian War. And then, of course, we had some other units here. Look, we've got some Italian units, which I never saw. They probably weren't used. Neither were these used. Look at how beautiful these are. Like, who did this? These are just, man, it make me want to join the army. And of course, here's the Prussian troops, the main body of the Prussian forces. We had a really cool scenario, and it presented a lot of interesting problems. I think the fundamental problem was that we have two forces that have to coordinate, and as far as I can tell, we're probably not even speaking the same language because it was a mess. So let's talk briefly about the scenario, and then I'll give you some of my own insights and thoughts, some pearls of wisdom of my own, and we will get rocking and rolling. So my forces start here around the town of Marley and Curvy. It's a town called Curvy. There you go. I'm sure it's pronounced differently, but my forces are starting in this area here. I presume we have Prussian forces, Allied forces, somewhere around here in this area. I don't know where exactly, but I'm imagining just, because it's a Kriegsspiel scenario, I can kind of reason out where this is going to be. Then we have French forces, and the French occupy Metz here. And from my briefing, the French want out. The French want to get out. And how do you get out? Well, here's a road, and here's a road right here. I'm drawing it very badly, but there's a road. Okay, so you've got these avenues of escape here. Actually, it's a railroad, by the way. We didn't even discuss railroad rules, but I don't think it mattered. And so I'm expecting the French are going to break out that way. So are my initial orders are simple. We're going to deploy in a blocking position. Change my color here so it's marginally less confusing, but we're going to basically deploy here. We're going to create a line here, and the enemy's not going to cross that line. That was sort of the idea. Now, the specifics of it were a little more complicated. I had one unit going to Agni here to defend initially. I myself was coming up to this position here, and then I had another unit that was going to come into position around here. They were going to be responsible for that position there, just because the river crossing and such. Um, and really, it was just kind of these initial orders to start. We did have a cavalry element. That cavalry element was ordered up here to St. Privat. And that was going to be the most important element of the day, not because I have a soft spot for cavalry and Achilles, my butt on here, but it's because we need to see what the enemy is doing. I expect the enemy is going to push out because it would be a very boring Kriegsspiel scenario to fight on these, 8 squares alone. But um, I don't know in what force and what number. I don't know what path they're going to take. I don't know if they're coming this way or if they're coming this way or they're going to do something crazy like this. Who knows? I don't know what they're doing. So I've got to get that information out there. So these are the initial orders that I've given to the units. And what do my guys do? Well, the instant they step off, they get caught up in this area with French forces that are already here. Right there on the ridge, they've got artillery, they've got infantry, they're shooting down on us, and my units are struggling in a traffic jam to get out of Marley and get somehow up here onto this high ground where they can then shake themselves out, form line, and then go into action. And that was a very, very hard thing to do. And this map is unreadable now because I've marked it all up so much. But it's a very hard thing to do. And right from the start, as a commander, I am in chaos. And that creates a really, really big problem. Never mind that I have an allied force that should be coming this way at some point. I'm not even on that page yet. That's a whole different chapter of the book. I'm like in the introduction stage. I am trying to figure out what do I do when all my units are tied up right from the get-go. The plan didn't even take off. It didn't even roll down the runway. Okay? I don't even know if the engine started on that thing. And we are in chaos. I really don't have much effective control over my men. What do I do? Now, this sort of thing is very difficult for anybody to put up with because when gamers play a game, they want control. They want to say, okay, this is my plan. I'm going to engage the plan. And when the plan is executed, I'm going to have a result. Now, the result may or may not be favorable to me, but that result is going to be a result of my own making. And that's how every game is set up, whether it's chess or checkers or some war game, even if it's a war game where your side is supposed to lose because historically they just lost. There is some kind of mechanism to balance the sides, to balance the game, to make it fair. Well, my friends, in Kriegsspiel, you can just take all of that, throw it all away, because it just doesn't apply. Kriegsspiel is more about reality. It's gritty. It's unfair. It's hard. It can be a painful experience for people because you start off with, off balance, I suppose. It's kind of how I started. And that's just how it is. All is fair in love and war, right? And that's what we model when we play Kriegsspiel. So in this case, I am, as we say, in command, but I am not in control. So my essential problem that I have to solve is how do I get control of my men? Furthermore, I have another problem. I don't know what's going on because I can't see. I'm down here initially, and I can't see beyond the crest of this ridge. So here's a ridge, and the French are all up there, and I have no idea what's going on. So I have very limited information and no real effective command and control over my men. About the only thing I can do is order them to retreat. Well, I suppose by the grace of God, my infantry brigade commander did in fact push through. He pushed up this little trail here and was able to form some kind of a line here. That allowed me to come up behind with the artillery and come online with the artillery. And that was a good experience because then we were actually able to hit the French. And the French were starting to waver. They were like, oh no, this is bad news. We need to get out of here. Their lines are drawn up something like this, and they are starting to give ground. Even over here, where we were in chaos, the French don't seem to be doing so well. The reports that I get is that the French morale is low. They're having a hard time. We're having some success. Now, it's not a roaring success, but it looks like we are winning the better of the day, if you will. Like we're coming out on top more than we're losing. All right, whatever. So my orders to my subordinate were very simple. We're going to go in and we're going to push this flank. We're going to do like this, and I'm going to push up the artillery so the artillery can continue to support you. I want the artillery to give you close, aggressive support the whole way. And that made sense because this guy was actually attacking with just a portion of his brigade. He didn't have the whole brigade online because of the confusing mess that took place down here. But we had control of a portion of the division. I had control of a portion of the division, and I was putting it to work. And just then, I give the order go north, and instead I see my guy refuse his flank and turn west. What's to the west? Well, as it turns out, another formation appears in the west. Just pick a random color there. And they start shooting at each other. Nice. We've been outflanked by the French. Very, very nice, right? Well, as it so happens, we are not outflanked by the French. These are actually Prussian forces. And my subordinate, his brigades, are firing on Prussian troops, which are allies. So now we have a friendly fire incident. And it continues, it doesn't stop. To my detriment, I saw in one of my reports a Prussian flag on a piece. Now that would be like me as a commander on the battlefield looking through my spyglass or whatever, and I see Prussian flags waving. What do you do when that happens? I don't know. Cease fire, right? I mean, would you not just cease fire? You might even go so far as to say surrender, because then when your allies get to you and realize that they've captured their allies, humiliating, yes, they're going to say, all right, get your weapons and help us fight this battle, because you have to stop the friendly fire. Well, I didn't stop the friendly fire. Now, why didn't I do it? This is where the game got into my head, and in Kriegsspiel, we commonly do what I call turning things 90 degrees just to kind of confuse the players and change things up so that they can't just follow history or do things that are too easy and predictable. And so what I did was I concluded that this must be something like that, that these aren't in fact friendlies, that these are somehow enemies. Had I gone back to the briefing and paid closer attention, I would have caught that. But I didn't. I just had, this conclusion, oh, the Prussians are our friends, then I see them shooting, and then I'm thinking, well, maybe this is one of those things where Blaze Trail, the designer, has turned the scenario over, and I'm supposed to deal with this crazy problem. Well, no, actually, we had a friendly fire incident. I blame the umpire who created it. I think it was very clever. And when I say blame the umpire who created it, I actually don't mean that in a negative way. I think he did an amazing job. Um, but yeah, we have a friendly fire incident. So at the end of all of this, I have to make a decision. I have forces that are committed to a battle. I have an enemy who seems to be wavering, but I have a real crisis here on my left flank. I don't have control of these forces. In fact, I don't really know what's going on over here. And it's just a complete mess. As we say in Kriegsspiel, you're in command, you're not in control. And I absolutely felt that during this battle. So I gave an order that I think was a mistake, but at the time it was like I need to do something. So I gave an order to basically retreat back here to this line. I wanted all my forces to come back here and regroup. And they were to do so in two steps, because I don't know that they could have done it in 4 or 5 steps. So basically a leapfrog, kind of an organized, orderly retreat with rear guards. And as they did this, they sorted themselves out. We ran into some Prussian cavalry down here, and I sent that cavalry off to kind of help over here, because I knew that even though I didn't know exactly what was going on over here, I knew it was a problem. They needed reinforcements, so I sent him right away. And we started to sort out the units, and we were ready to go back in. In fact, I had given the order to go back in. They took a long time to sort out. I even got down to one point where I told my subordinate, my 4th Brigade commander, I said, "You've got 10 minutes to get your men in line facing that way and start moving. You've got 10 minutes. Do it now." And he did so. I mean, everybody did the best they could with what they had. Uh, and then, of course, they called the battle. Now, our primary mission was to contain the French, which we ended up doing, so technically it was a Prussian victory. The French made some errors on their own. They basically concentrated here and here on their flanks, but they didn't make the main effort to actually punch through, as I understand from the debriefing, and so consequently it was a Prussian victory. Nice, right? But anyway, the whole chaos thing really made it tough for me because what do you do when you start in chaos? It's not like poker where you can just fold the hand, right? If you get dealt like, a 2 and a 7 as your whole cards and you're playing, Texas Hold'em, you know that I can't play these cards. You just throw them away, you know? You can't do that. You get dealt a hand and you have to play the hand. You can't fold. What do you do? And so for me, the answer was at first was try to let the individual commander sort it out, because that chaos is taking place at an intimate level where the commander is faced with an enemy that's immediately to his front. They're actually engaged. They're exchanging fire. That commander has a better sense of what's going on than I do. And I have to trust that commander is going to maneuver their elements in such a way as to gain the upper hand and to either hold or even push back the enemy. And if they can't, they'll let me know. And I just kind of have to sit there and wait. I have to wait for these little guys to sort it out. And I bet the little guys have even littler guys that they have to wait on. The general has to wait on the major has to wait on the captain has to wait on the sergeants on the privates who are actually doing the fighting. And it gets resolved in that order. And you just have to wait. There's nothing you can do. The only thing you can do is call for a retreat, and if the retreat isn't orderly, it's going to be a rout and it'll be a disaster. So, as a commander, you send out a dispatch. This is what I did. I sent a dispatch to prepare them and said, at this point in time, I want you to go ahead and begin this movement. And I really think that's one way to handle the withdrawal. And it's another way to get a handle on the chaos. But you can only do that in the face of an enemy that isn't going to overwhelm you, because as you pull back, a powerful enemy will continue to push you. Ultimately, I don't think you have much choice other than to stand and fight in those situations. I had this luxury because the French team was wavering. They didn't have the power to pursue me. So I felt that I could disengage briefly, shake out my units, organize, and go back in and have an advantage. I might have been right, but trying to disengage from a committed battle, it's tough stuff. And sometimes all you can do as a commander is remind yourself, I'm in command, but I'm not in control. Yes, I'm responsible for the outcome, but guess what? It's a roll of the dice. All right, let's take a look at some of the comments here and see what other people are saying. Achilles says howdy. Robert says howdy. Good morning to everyone there. Achilles says everyone loves the cavalry. Of course we do. Achilles says yes, players tend to want to win or lose due to their own actions. Sadly, reality does not care about your plans. And that's the case, right? I was not born rich, Some people are born poor. Some people are born wealthy, however it goes. And that's just the hand you're dealt. And unfortunately, you can't fold that hand. You have to play it. And it's the same thing in Kriegsspiel. You draw a hand and you just have to play it. Marvelous Anarchy, who I think is Spesnados, I think is, if I'm pronouncing the name right, says he will hold me in contempt because I shot his aide. Now, sir, I did not shoot your aide at all. It was somebody who was 2 or 3 levels of command beneath me. I don't even know who it was. And I did give my doctor's orders to treat the Prussian wounded first. So there you have it. We've got some all caps commentary. We'll just let you read that in the YouTube comments. Blaze Trail, who is the master umpire who designed the scenario, had this to say: friendly fire incidents like this are really quite common when closing an encirclement like this, especially without modern equipment like radios. Yes. Um, Achilles says the designer turned it 90 degrees on you by not turning it 90 degrees. And that's it. I've played too much Kriegsspiel, right? I expect a twist. I'm the king of twists. I love twists. I'm in the Arthur C. Clarke of Kriegsspiel scenarios. But no, there was no twist here. It was like, really, no, you're actually shooting your own guys. Good job. So there you have it. Now let's talk to Otto, the guy I hold responsible for this. I really think this is a genius move, but let's see his comment. He says, "I got the idea for the friendly fire incident in that game. Hopefully we can have more of them in the future." That's the spirit, Otto. I love it. Blaze Trail says it was interesting to see that both sides seemed to believe that the enemy outnumbered them, although only the French were correct. And that's another thing. That I learned early on in Kriegsspiel is that your frame of mind matters. I've seen teams that are winning, hands down, they're winning decisively, come to the conclusion that somehow they're losing, and they give up all their advantages. They adopt a losing mentality, and then they lose, and it's over. And that happens. And I've seen it happen in reverse, where the losing team's like, no, I think we got this. The most common problem, and this is a problem I suffer from myself, is I think I'm doing great. I think we're winning. Hey, we're doing great because, hey, I'm winning, right? You know, to my front in my tunnel vision, I see win, win, win. I'm like, I'm having a great day playing Kriegsspiel, but the rest of my team is losing. And that's a thing, too. That happens. And it's part of the experience. But yeah, I think that the frame of mind in which you approach and play a game really does matter. And it's just the same way in real life. This is how Kriegsspiel kind of translates. Um, Abraham Lincoln told, uh, it was before Bull Run, and I keep wanting to say Meade, and Meade was at Gettysburg. Who was the general at Bull Run? The Union general, and not was it McDowell? I think it was McDowell. Uh, he told the Union commander, who was like, you know, hey, my troops are green. He's like, but they're green too, referring to the Confederates. And so both sides kind of had this equal disadvantage. And that's something that you have to remember, whether you're playing Kriegsspiel or you're entering a business negotiation or you're in a relationship or whatever that may be. The person sitting across from you is secretly as terrified of you as you are of them. You know, even if there's a power differential, even if it's your boss is terrified you're going to ask for that raise, and they're probably going to have to give it because you've earned it. And they're as afraid of you as you are of them. So it pays to be daring. It pays to be bold. Take a page from Sam Miller. I continue to attack. He's the official mascot of the International Kriegsspiel Society because he's such an aggressive attacker. And I think sometimes you draw the medal, sometimes you draw the court martial, but you know, you got 60-40 odds. You might as well just play those odds because in life it pays. It just pays, I'm saying. Now, if you're on a battlefield, you'd be a little more conservative, and I've said this myself. In fact, I said this last week. We had a scenario in which I committed my own avatar, my own general, and my troops to a cavalry attack that I would never do in real life because it's a game. But you know, that's because human life is on the line, namely mine. I'm not going to throw my life away unless I really, really think I need to. But then in a game, we tend to be a little more gamey. But I guess my encouragement, my lesson here is in real life, keep in mind that the other team is just as afraid of you as you are of them. They may have as many problems with chaos that you are having with them. Think about the French player. The French player starts here, more or less. They end up on this ridge. They see a huge Bavarian force coming this way at them. They probably feel the chaos and anxiety from that. They don't know what all I have. They don't know how powerful I am. Here I am, I start punching through here. They're probably thinking, hey, we don't want no part of this. We're in chaos. And so here I am thinking, man, we're disorganized and we're at a terrible disadvantage. How do I sort this out? And the French are probably thinking just about the same thing while I'm doing that to them. So let's take a quick look here. Projection is a dangerous thing in a commander. So I'd like some elaboration on that sometime, Achilles. We'll talk about that. We don't have time today, but it'd be pretty cool to get into that. And yeah, it was McDowell, and it was a Prussian victory yesterday. So there we go. There we have on the comments. Um, that's kind of all I have to say about this today. I could prattle on, but I'm not going to bore you guys. Um, that's my take on it. I think it was a brilliant scenario. I had an excellent umpire who engineered what I think will be one of the more memorable experiences of my Kriegsspiel career. It was a fantastic learning experience, and that's why I like this game, because you learn a lot about yourself too. You become introspective. And you also have to keep in mind that you're playing against other human beings. And again, whether it's a game or it's a negotiation or a relationship or whatever it may be in real life, that person on the other end is secretly as afraid of you as you are of them. And you need to use that knowledge to your advantage. Push a little, continue to attack a little more, and see what you can get by taking that approach. Of course, don't be dumb, right? You know, if life is on the line, you might be a lot more conservative. So keep that in mind. But anyway, it was fun having a chaotic Kriegsspiel experience. It was insightful, and I had a good time, and I'm looking forward to the next one. Achilles says this is where knowing your opponent helps. Knowing their tendencies gives you an advantage. That's right. And now that I've given away all my game, you guys know how to beat me, huh? Achilles can use my tendency to push a little to his advantage. So we'll see. Well, that's all I've got for today, folks. I want to thank you all for tuning in to today's episode of Coffee, Kegs, and Kriegsspiel. We have, I think, the Guadalcanal game next Saturday, which I'll be live streaming and doing the podcast on that for sure. And, well, that's what we have. So I look forward to seeing you